Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, one of the first and most important things that the new ADAA did and the new regulations is say that from now on, the ADA is to be broadly construed. And what does that mean? Right from the regulations, this is what it says. It says the primary purpose of the ADAA is to make it easier for people with disabilities to obtain protection under the ADA. The definition of disability shall, means you don't have any choice, shall be construed broadly in favor of expansive coverage to the maximum extent permitted under the ADA. In other words, the question from now on should not be whether or not someone is disabled, but whether or not what do you need to do to accommodate them. Now, I hope you're picking up on the 180-degree shift that we got from what the ADA used to be before 2011 and what it is now. So, who is disabled now under the Americans with Disabilities Act? Well, this takes us to page 7 of our handout. Now, we got something new in the regulations. Categorical list. Remember, it used to be, are you substantially limited in a major life activity? Well, if you are, quote, quote, lucky enough to have a certain condition, you are, quote, quote, virtually always covered by the Americans with Disabilities Act. Now understand what the original draft of the regulations said. They said, look, if you have one of these conditions that are on the categorical list, you're automatically covered by the Americans with Disabilities Act. Automatically. Now, do your antennas go up to this? Because remember, originally, under the Americans with Disabilities Act, you have to be substantially limited in a major life activity. Not if you're on the categorical list. The EEOC was proposing you're automatically in, just by virtue of the fact that you had a diagnosis. That we're not going to look at, are you substantially limited in a major life activity? We're not going to look at that. That is exactly contrary to the original ADA. But it doesn't matter because this is what we've got now. The EEOC got all kinds of backlash because they said, well, you're going to be automatically covered under the ADA if you have one of these conditions on this list. Business and labor attorneys screamed bloody murder. So the EEOC went back and they changed it from automatic to virtually always covered. Virtually always covered. Now, I would really like to have somebody explain to me what the difference is between virtually always covered and automatic. It sounds like rhetoric to me. It sounds like if you get one of these conditions, you can pretty much plan that you've got yourself a disability. So you would move right on to reasonable accommodation. Now you see the defense that has been taken away from employers. It used to be that we had to consider whether someone was substantially limited in a major life activity for all conditions. Not now. Not now. Now, if you happen to have one of these conditions, you're in. So what are these conditions? Blindness, which kind of makes sense. Autism is on this list. Diabetes is on this list. Now, stop right there. This is the fastest growing epidemic in the world, diabetes. You probably have 50, 60, 70% of your employees, if you're a normal employer, who are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. So you could run 10 miles a week, You could swim 4 miles a week. You could lift weights 3 days a week. You could do all kinds of things. You could be perfectly healthy, taking your medicine, normal blood sugars, but you've been diagnosed with diabetes. You're covered. You're covered. So guess what? I can come in and I can say, oh, this is really making me tired, or I can't do this, or this is really affecting my condition. And you have to sit down and talk about reasonably accommodating me. And what's that mean? It means maybe taking away duties, letting me come in late, let me leave early, all kinds of things. And we'll talk more about reasonable accommodations as we get there. So you see the potential for fraud? Absolutely. Epilepsy is on here. Multiple sclerosis is on that list. Major depressive disorder. Major depressive disorder. Well, what's the difference between major depressive disorder and simple depression? And how tough is it to get diagnosed with depression? It's easy. I go to WebMD and I type off, hey, I have depression. It will print for me a list of conditions or a list of symptoms. I just go in, talk to my doctor, say I feel depressed. I feel like this and this and this. He say, oh, you're depressed. Guess what? You're covered by the ADA. Now, you see the problem here? I still have a lot of clients. There are a lot of companies out there that they do not recognize when an employee has a condition like diabetes, depression, that they are, quote, quote, virtually always covered by the ADA. They miss it. They might recognize that it is a FMLA issue, but it is also an ADA issue. And I'll tell you, you need to recognize that. So categorical disabilities, be aware of those. Remember, the purpose of the regulations from 2011 are to cover everybody. It's to cover as many people as possible. And the categorical list does just that.